Hello from Norway. We have spent the last several days here in Norway hanging out with family, but tomorrow we start the Ian and Dara adventure, our DIY Norway in a nutshell. Come along with us as we start out here in Oslo, where we just arrived today, and head into Bergen tomorrow and points beyond, fjords, mountains, all the things. We'll show you what we did in designing our own trip, doing things our way, following the general Norway in a nutshell concept. We'll share with you what ends up being fabulous and maybe what's disappointing so that you can plan your trip to Norway. We are going to be taking one of these V trains when we begin our journey to Flam in a few minutes. The V train goes from here in Oslo to Myrdal, and then we change trains. After a little bit of chaos, we have boarded the V train from Oslo, it's the F4 train to Bergen, and I think we are stopping first in Myrdal. But this is a long train ride, so we're going to be spending a lot of time on the train today. This is the last view of Oslo I'm going to film. This is the first lake we're seeing outside Oslo, but I have a feeling there's going to be a lot more water today. I don't think I've ever purchased food from a train dining car before because I'm too cheap, but this is a long train ride and we didn't bring food. And all food is so expensive in Norway. I'm gonna just go check out this dining car and see if I can find some stuff to buy to sustain us until, I don't know, 6 or 7 or whenever we're off of trains today. Some wraps and sandwiches and yogurt and look at this, salmon and pasta salad. And then I think those are paninis, and then some Norwegian lefse, and then some Norwegian pastries and pizzas. There's actually a lot of decent looking food here. The only trouble is when I'm standing up, I get really motion sick because the train is weaving back and forth. So I've ordered a pizza for us, and I also got a cheese sandwich and this mango smoothie. So hopefully I can make it back to our seat. I realized far too late that I should have taken one of these Quell's motion sickness tablets, but better late than never. Snow on the mountaintops. Here's our train. We arrived on track 1. There's one of the many tunnels or covered bridges that we went through getting here to Myrdal. It's a small station here in Myrdal. Everyone worries about, oh, how will I be able to find the Flamsbana train? I get here and we don't have that much time between trains. Well, there are only 2 tracks. You arrive here on track 1 and then walk across the station to track 2, which is exactly what everybody else is doing. But because there are no assigned seats, we're all scrambling to get in these queues, and we've got the train coming in another 5 minutes. There are no assigned seats on the Flamsbana train, so a bit of a dogfight. People getting in here and making their way to the seats on the good side of the train, which allegedly is the left or the side away from the station because we're heading that way. So I'm sitting 1 seat away from the window and hopefully we'll get some good views on this Flamsbana Railway ride, which is supposed to be one of the most beautiful in the whole world. I'm just a little bit disappointed that the window is so dirty, so let's see what kind of footage I get. It's kind of an old-fashioned wood ceiling, wood furniture train. One surprise I have about this journey is that we spend the majority of the journey inside tunnels, so we can't see anything out the windows. Don't get me wrong, the scenery along the Flamsbana train journey was stunning, but it was difficult to see it all in between all the tunnels and the dirty windows, and it was nearly impossible to film. As you'll see later in this video, I think there's plenty of beautiful scenery to enjoy at a more leisurely pace with an unobstructed view later in our Norway nutshell adventures. The train momentarily stops so that everyone can get off and photograph this waterfall. Here at the Kjosfossen waterfall, you may be lucky enough to see a mysterious woman in red appear from nowhere, dancing to Norse folk music. She is the Huldra, a mythical forest spirit who, as legend goes, lures people into the wilderness with song and dance. That's what the waterfall should be looking like, but sometimes the waterfall has a lot more water in it than when it hasn't been raining very much and there's no snow melt. But at least we were lucky enough to see the woman in red. The Roller Road cycle route has a famous section which descends steeply downhill 800 vertical meters in 21 hairpin turns. Cyclists love the challenge of this trail as well as the gorgeous views that conclude in the valley below in Flam at a stunning fjord. Of course, Ian would have loved to have ridden this bike route, but I was too chicken. So we opted for another cycling opportunity, which you'll see later in the video. Taking pictures of another Flamsbana train, of other people taking pictures this way. I'm going to try to film the waterfall here that has a free fall distance of 140 meters. We are now approaching Flam. Only about 400 people live in Flam year-round. The Flam Railway is really popular. As you can see, there are loads of people just streaming off of the train we just got off of. Well, that was exciting. We arrived at the Flam railway station and we sat down and said, okay, let's figure out how we get to our hotel that we're staying at the next couple days. So we looked it up and looked up how we get there, and it's by bus. And the bus, good news, is the bus leaves right from the Flam railway station. The bad news is the bus was leaving in 4 minutes and the next bus was tomorrow morning at 11:30 a.m. It's 6:30 p.m. right now. So we're like, okay, we better run. Well, first we better find out where the bus is, which was not obvious, and then we need to run. So we just made it. It looks like it's going to be a pretty bus ride to our hotel. We are staying in this older building, part of the Hotel Lindström, and we're so excited to be in it because it is just a beautiful building. And here is what our room looks like on the inside. We've got a huge super king bed and beautiful view outside to the garden and the mountains. Oh my word! Look at this little sitting area. It's so cozy and adorable. And you can just stare at the mountains. And then here is our shower room. So this looks just great. We have been on trains for 7 hours and a bus for a further hour getting here to our hotel and settling in for the evening. It's about 7:30. So I'm ready for a nice cooked meal. And this quaint vintage hotel that we're staying at actually has a couple older buildings and the new building. And in the newer building, they have a restaurant where they serve dinner as well as breakfast. So I think we're going to hit up the dinner there tonight. It's a bit expensive, but everything is in Norway. And this place is a bit expensive, but it's a splurge because it's my birthday in 2 days. This dining room is kind of fancy. We're definitely underdressed. This is Ian's roast pork with cabbage and prunes. And this is my salmon and our potatoes. Well, we have had a great day. It was really fun riding the Flamsbana train. However, it wasn't quite as amazingly scenic as I expected. I actually thought the train ride from Oslo to Myrdal that you take, before you switch over to the Flamsbana, I thought that was really scenic and nice as well. The Flamsbana just had so much tunnel time where you couldn't see. But if you take the Flamsbana, which I still think you should because it is an amazing train journey, just don't have super high expectations and then you won't be disappointed. But if you do it, make sure when you board the train, you sit on the side away from the station. And if you want to film things, make sure you have an open window. Filming through the closed windows, like I was trying to do, was an absolute disaster. Otherwise, great day, and we're so excited to be here in Laerdal, and I look forward to showing you that tomorrow. In the kind of Norway in a nutshell circuit of going around to all the places, we decided to stop in Flam and spend a couple days in this area, really in the Laerdal area. That's the village that we're in now. I heard that Laerdal was just a really pretty place, and so I booked this Hotel Lindstrom to stay here a couple days, and it actually has really exceeded our expectations. The funny thing is, when we were taking the bus here last night, as we were coming into the village, I was looking out the front window of the bus and saying to Ian, this place looks like a movie set. I have spent some time in Los Angeles on studio backlots and filmed commercials and things like that, so I know a little bit about how studio lots look. You go tour Universal Studios. This looks like it. It just looks fake. The gardens are also really pretty and well kept around here, making it look even more idyllic.
It's really like a living museum.
And the reason why this village is so special is here in the old town center of Laerdal is this building collection, 170 listed buildings from the 18th and 19th centuries. The architecture is influenced by Bergen. It's the urban empire style with all kinds of elegant details that give this village its distinctive character. The hotels, like the one we're staying in, the Lindstrom Hotel, were built in the Swiss style, and they were used by all the people that would come here to this very active port that was here. Also in the town are traders' houses where they both lived and had their trade stalls. So they're distinctive because they're tall and narrow to make the best use of space. There's also sea shed type houses that started out as just boat houses on the beach, but were gradually used as trade stalls in combination with homes as they got a second floor added to them. This Laerdal Valley has been one of the most important transport corridors between the east and west in southern Norway. That's why this area where the fjord meets the land became a very active market town. This village was once a fjord town, and originally the rows of houses were by the fjord, but large amounts of rock masses from the first hydropower development in the 1970s made it possible to transform the landscape. Because of this, the shoreline is now further west than before, and the old town is a piece of land away from the fjord and the river. Here is the church, which is so beautiful against the backdrop of the mountains. We are renting these bicycles to ride along the edge of the fjord today. We were riding along this road and then I saw there was a tunnel. I'm like, I am not going in a tunnel with cars, but thank goodness there's this bike path that goes around the mountain point so that we don't have to go through the tunnel. Biking along this road with the fjord and the mountains. Beautiful. Okay, this is a pretty scenic place along the bike ride. We've got this long little waterfall down here to the road. And then we've got on this side the mountain views and just a massive fjord. Even though I'm a mediocre cyclist who lacks both skill and confidence, I was able to handle this excursion along the fjord, and I thoroughly enjoyed the gorgeous scenery. Laerdal has a long history of salmon fishing, although these days, these are the only salmon you're going to find in Laerdal. Except there's also salmon on our plates because we're having salmon salad for lunch. We are trying to follow a trail that is supposed to take us to a waterfall up on the side of the mountain. I regret to report that we did not take the correct path to see the waterfall directly. We wandered in the woods for hours and eventually ended up kind of on top of the falls, which I'll show you in a second. But we did stop at the top and have the chance to appreciate this sweeping view over the village of Laerdal below. Then we had to scramble all the way back down the mountain to finally get a proper view of the Stodnafossen waterfall from below. It was a spectacular waterfall, so I'm glad we were able to eventually see it. Good morning. We are still here in beautiful Laerdal, although we are leaving this morning. It's my birthday today, and we are actually taking our first boat ride on a fjord. We will be taking a bus this morning from Laerdal to Flam, and then from Flam we will be boarding a boat and going to Balestrand. And then tomorrow is our big travel day where we kind of finish out our version of the DIY Norway in a nutshell circuit. Before we leave Laerdal this morning, I had to get this photo when the houses are reflecting in the little lake. But before boarding the bus, we had a fabulous brunch at the hotel, including, of course, some scrumptious Norwegian waffles to celebrate my birthday. The Laerdal Tunnel is the longest road tunnel in the world. It was built to connect Oslo to Bergen. It took 5 years to build and was completed in the year 2000. To help people with claustrophobia, they've inserted in certain areas cutouts where the tunnel is wider and they have a lot of light, like this blue lit area here. And it is certainly much longer than any tunnel I've been in before. We just arrived in Flam and got off of that bus. This just gives a little flavor for how touristy Flam is. It's quite the tourist hub. We've got this Mall of Norway here, which is a great place to spend money on souvenirs, apparently. And over here, we have the biggest cruise ship I've ever seen, but I'm not really an expert on cruise ships. And then all kinds of other things, which we're about to discover because we have several hours here. This area has all kinds of food trucks and stands selling sweaters and other warm things. And more shopping over here. This cruise ship is so giant, it looks as tall as the mountains. Ian looked up and this cruise ship holds like 6,000 passengers. It's one of the biggest in the world. In my opinion, Flam is both wonderful and terrible at the same time. It is a place of immense natural beauty. It is a convenient launching point for some amazing train and boat journeys. It offers a chance to experience lovely parts of Norwegian culture, like seeing Nordic architecture and tasting local foods like waffles with brunost. Though I'm not sure about the fish and chips sign. I feel like that is appealing to American and British tourists. But Flam is also super crowded with tourists and just packed full of overpriced touristy tat. The Flamsbana train is extremely popular, and this is a favorite port for Norwegian cruises. So I think this place will continue to be a high traffic area with lots of folks flowing through it. I advise that you take the good with the bad and just enjoy what Flam has to offer as you stop there on your way to enjoying less crowded parts of Norway. Ian and I went on this little hike that was named something that had otter in the name. And we got these amazing pictures of the view over Flam. I just tasted reindeer salami, and it just tasted like regular salami. It's pretty good. Now we are boarding a ferry for a 2-hour ride that takes us to our next overnight stay in a place called Balestrand. This is not a fjord cruise, but as you can see, it offers some breathtaking views of the fjords and dramatic scenery all around them. And it takes us to a place that was one of my favorite places in Norway. The fjord is beautiful and the mountains are stunning, but unfortunately it is a cloudy day. So things are a bit hazy and darker than they would be if we were having a bright sunny day. We are heading out of the little inlet that Flam is located on to get into the main part of the fjord, which I think is called Sonja Fjord. We have just exited Arlandsfjord and are headed toward our first stop, which is Ireland. This is Ireland, and then we will be heading into the big Sonja Fjord. There will be several stops before we get to Balestrand, which is our destination. This was the first of many pretty waterfalls we were able to observe during our time cruising through the fjords. Now we are in the Sonja Fjord, which is the longest and the deepest fjord in the world. This fjord is over 1,300 meters deep in its deepest point. Next stop is a place that I'm not going to know how to pronounce the name, but apparently it's famous for orchards and growing fruit and making wine. I think it's called Leikanger or something like that. I think we are approaching Balestrand now, and it's been so dark and cloudy, but it looks like there's a little bit of sunlight on the tops behind those mountains up there where there is snow. So crazy to see snow in August. This is the boat we were just on, and here is Balestrand. This is the hotel where we will be staying, the Balestrand Hotel. Here is a quick tour of our room in the Balestrand Hotel. We've got a little seating area, 2 twin beds pushed together. Oh wow, we have a balcony. It's the door that goes out to the balcony, and man, that's the money shot there. Here is the view from out on our balcony. Just beautiful view of the huge fjord, and there's kind of a beach area down there on the shore, and I think that might be a sauna right there on the edge, kind of hanging over the water. And right here, just down the street, is a really cool looking church that I want to go check out really fast in case it's about to close. This is the St. Olaf Kirke. St. Olaf's Church is actually an English church. It was completed and inaugurated in 1897, and from then on, there has been Anglican services held here by Anglican priests during just the summer months. The church was built because of Margaret and Knut Kvikne. Margaret was the daughter of a priest from England, and she liked to hike in the mountains and was actually one of the first female mountain climbers. When she moved to Balestrand, she missed the Anglican church she knew from England, and she and her husband built a church in Balestrand so that they could have the Church of England here. Even though it's an Anglican church, it was built in the traditional style of the Stava churches that are here around Norway. We went to this restaurant for a delicious birthday dinner featuring Ukrainian borscht and scampi pasta. It was delicious. And then we took a walk around Balestrand, which just has stunning views everywhere you look. If you've met me before, you know I'm a big fan of a delicious breakfast buffet. And the next morning, we went to the Kviknes Hotel, which has a partnership with the Balestrand Hotel, offering a great deal on their expansive Scandinavian breakfast smorgasbord. The Kviknes is the OG resort hotel here in Balestrand. Located along the water's edge in this gorgeous period building, we stayed in a less expensive hotel, but were able to still enjoy their guests-only breakfast here at the fancy hotel. So come check it out with me. We begin with an assortment of fresh fruits and yogurt. We have brunost and smoked salmon, two Norwegian necessities. The obligatory cereals and muesli, some healthy vegetables, creamy butter, and a variety of tasty breads, rolls, and pastries. Plus, of course, an array of meats and cheeses to go with them for a typical European breakfast. There's also a hot buffet of beans, tomatoes, mushrooms, potatoes, sausages, and eggs for the Brits and Americans who need that on their plates. And also an additional offering of pancakes and French toast. But the best part of the breakfast was the view from our table of the fjord and mountains and rest of Balestrand. I'm obsessed with this beautiful white and red church next to the red barn with the, of course, dark green mountain behind it. Absolutely lovely. Here's our ferry coming to pick us up again. Before we leave Balestrand, I have to show you some of my favorite views of this lovely little gem of a village. Honestly, I can't wait to go back there and hope to bring more of our family along with us next time. Today is going to be our biggest, most complicated travel day so far. We started out in Balestrand, where we spent the night. We got on this ferry, which is taking us back to Flam. And then we have several more journeys throughout the day. So I will keep you updated on each one of those journeys and let you know how it's going. We got on this boat about noon, and the ride's a little over an hour and a half. And then we'll have an hour and a half to hang out in Flam before our next boat ride. Another beautiful waterfall view on the way back to Flam. We are about to dock in Flam now, next to this gigantic cruise ship. Our next journey for the day will be a 2-hour fjord cruise. Departing here from Flam, see that giant ship in the background? That's a serious cruise ship. That one's the 15th largest cruise ship in the world, but here's the one we're going on. It's just this little fjord cruise ship. Departing Flam at 3 and arriving in Gudvangen at 5 p.m. So a 2-hour ride through the fjord. This is a very different looking boat than the others we've been on. This is electric, zero emissions vehicle. Oh my, they have some delicious looking desserts. Norwegian waffles and croissant. But look at this lounge area. Looks super comfy. And then there's a few decks outside that you can walk around to see the views. Here is the next level up. There's both indoor seating here and then out on this deck, which is where I'm headed now. One more view of Flam before we leave and head on to all kinds of other places today. Oh, this deck wraps all the way around. You can stand here at the front. Here's the back of the boat. You can stand up here and here. So lots of places to be outside. We are starting the cruise and the sun has gone behind the clouds again, but we've got a 2-hour cruise around the fjord, so I'm hoping to get some good footage for you. We took a river cruise in Prague on an electric boat, and this one really reminds me of that. It just glides through the water so smooth and quiet. It's wonderful. This is the way to see the fjords. Today's August 28th, and it's a bit cool today. I think that this would be an amazing voyage to take on a really sunny, relatively warm day, but I'm huddled in a place here next to the ship that's not quite as windy, but out there on the front of the ship, trying to take some footage. It's really windy and quite cold, and I would not be up for taking this in the autumn or the winter. I know people do, but I think that would be too cold for me. Every time we pass by one of these sheer rock face surfaces like this one, I just think about the glaciers that created this whole natural phenomenon. It's just, everything's so immense and dramatic. This is the Lagdafossen, also known as Sog Waterfall. It drops from around 600 meters above the fjord and then runs out to the sea. Waterfalls like this can only be viewed from boats in the fjord. It's interesting to note that the British upper class is the reason that fjords like this became such a popular tourist destination, starting back in the middle of the 19th century. Families like the one we discussed in Balestrand came here in the summers to enjoy the dramatic scenery and stay in summer homes, catching large salmon in the rivers and hunting deer in the fields and forests. This luxurious way of life was in stark contrast to the lifestyle of the farmers of Vestland who were living in this area. The tourism industry was born, and it brought money into this part of Norway, which now continues to be a very popular tourist destination. It's interesting to think that we are here on this electric cruise boat with people from all over the world, viewing the same fjords and waterfalls that the Englishmen first admired in their yachts a couple hundred years ago. There are actually a lot of waterfalls all over. We've seen that one big one several times, but in this part of the new fjord, there's a couple right here. That's like a cool double waterfall. Here we are arriving in Gudvangen. Loads of us got off of that cruise, that boat cruise through the fjord, and then now we're all trying to get on a bus to Voss, and there's loads of us, like way more than will fit on a bus. So I'm hoping this works out okay. And to make matters worse, we don't have a ticket. We were kind of hoping we could buy it on the bus, so hopefully that'll work out. The group just keeps getting bigger, and the bus doesn't show up, I think, probably for another 15 minutes or so. I hope it's multiple buses. So now there are loads of buses showing up, but it's kind of chaos and no one knows what's happening. There's like 5 buses all going from Gudvangen to Voss, and we still haven't bought our tickets yet. Phew! We got our tickets, and look at this. This bus we're on is only going to be like a third full. And it looks like for dinner, we will be eating fun-sized Snickers on this bus. Even this bus ride is pretty. It's just amazing how there's almost waterfalls everywhere. This is really crazy. When you take this bus between Gudvangen and Voss, they stop at a hotel and let you get out and go take pictures of the valley from behind the hotel, and they give you like 5 or 10 minutes to go take pictures and then get back on the bus. All 5 or 6 buses are doing this same shenanigans. We go in this red hotel and we go around to the back and take a picture of a view. This is just the craziest thing. Definitely not your normal bus ride, that's for sure. Absolutely stunning. That is a pretty amazing view. The valley is just so deep. Now we're all scurrying to get back on our buses so that we don't get left behind. And the remaining bus ride to Voss had even more beautiful scenery and views of fjords. Now the giant mass of people is exiting the buses and heading into the train station. I don't know if we're all getting on that train to Bergen, but we're about to find out. This is the Voss to Bergen train, and this right there is the Voss gondola. I'm gonna see if I can show it to you. Oh yeah, there we are. And on this journey, our meal is a frush mango smoothie, and for our second course, a chocolate protein milk. We are on the train to Bergen, and this is our last journey of the day. We should be getting into Bergen about 8:40 p.m. and then we just have to find our hotel, which Ian tells me is very close to the station. And I hope he's right, because I'm going to be pretty tired by then. We had a nice little train journey into Bergen, and in my next video, I will tell you all about our adventures there. In conclusion, I'd like to summarize our DIY approach to Norway in a nutshell, which is the trademark name that fjordtours.com has for their tour between Oslo and Bergen. You can take the tour in either direction, and we opted to go from Oslo to Bergen. The tour involves a train journey between Oslo and Myrdal, which was lovely, and then the Flamsbana train between Myrdal and Flam, which I thought was nice but overhyped. The Fjord Tours cruise between Flam and Gudvangen was my favorite part of the journey. The bus ride to Voss was a bit chaotic and quirky, but rather fun. Finally, the train into Bergen was easy and got us to our final destination. But here is my biggest caution when it comes to doing the Norway in a nutshell yourself. All these trips on one day is a lot. I would hate to do it on the same day because I think it would feel like an exhausting day of travel with no time to relax, enjoy, and explore. When you cram it all in one day, it starts around 8 a.m. and ends after 8 p.m. and costs about 3,500 Norwegian kroner, which is about 360 American dollars or 270 British pounds. To make the trip more leisurely, you can still purchase the tour on the website with layovers in between different destinations, or you can just book everything separately yourself like we did. I'm really glad that we took the trip at a slower pace and stopped a few times, because my favorite parts of the whole experience were the two places we went off the standard tour route. The Laerdal municipality, which had a village so picturesque it seemed fake, and offered the perfect place for a scenic bike ride along a fjord, and the stunning village of Balestrand, which was full of Nordic culture and breathtaking natural beauty. I hope you are inspired to plan your own trip to Norway. Let me know what you are excited to see, and if you are from Norway, I'd love to hear your thoughts about our trip. Stay tuned for our Bergen video next week, and in the meantime, please check out some of our other Norway videos here. Thanks so much for watching this video, and do something good in the world today.